Did you know that there are an estimated 522 primate species, plus an additional estimated 182 subspecies with astounding diversity? 70% of primate species and subspecies are threatened by extinction. You will be awed and intrigued by the diversity of primate species. The Earth is losing species at an alarming rate. 69% of primate species are threatened by extinction, 100% are losing habitat to human activities. And if they are at risk, so is every other species that shares their environment. Hi, I'm Tej. At Chezuba Talks, we take pride in highlighting agents of change and sharing stories that inspire. And if you're wondering where I got this information that I so eruditely shared, it's from Debra's website. Debra Curtin, the president and founder of New England Primate Conservancy, she shares her story on Chezuba Talks today. To tell you about Debra, she has managed the communications department at a major Boston hospital. She has directed the sales department at a telecommunications software company on Boston's North Shore and was an independent organizational and management consultant prior to launching New England Primate Conservancy. In 2002, her passion for animal protection drew her into a life changing plunge into the nonprofit sector, bringing New England Private Conservancy into the education sector as an animal protection organization. Welcome to the podcast, Deborah.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Happy to be here.
It is a privilege to have you on the podcast. You
Thank you.
chose not to sit back and wait for someone else to do something, and you actually started this nonprofit. So, could you just tell us a story how you came to start this?
Well, it started with a can of paint and Animal Planet. I was painting the walls of my living room. This was about 25 years ago, and Animal Planet was new. I had Animal Planet on in the background while I was painting the walls of my living room. And the narrator was talking about this region of Africa. I knew nothing about this by the way, so I can't even tell you where in Africa this occurred. But the narrator was talking about the fact that the elephants had become extinct in this particular region of Africa. They had been hunted to extinction. And what had previously been a lush region became a dust bowl within a matter of a few years. Then they brought the elephants back. And when they brought the elephants back, once again, within almost no time, the region became lush again. And my mind was blown at that moment. I'm somebody who grew up in New York City. I didn't think about the interdependence of animals and their habitat. I just, like so many people, especially city people, I really hadn't had cause to think about these things. And this just blew my mind. So I get down from the ladder and I'm looking at the television to understand more of what happens in this interdependence of species and their habitat. And I'm saying, what on earth are we doing? What are we humans doing by wiping out habitat, by deciding where animals should be, by moving them around? Who do we think we are? Absolutely. And that was the moment I realized I needed to do something. I had no idea what, but I knew I needed to do something. And it was several more years until I established New England Primate Conservancy.
Wow,
that was the beginning.
Yeah. Animal Planet and a can of paint.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Wow, that's amazing.
Right. And I had so much to learn because, as I said, I was starting from a basis of where I grew up in New York. If we didn't have squirrels, pigeons, and sparrows, we didn't have animals. We weren't allowed to have pets. So these were the animals that we had. And I didn't live far from a major zoo, but still, it's so different, to consider what's happening in the wild, and how we are impacting it. And then ultimately, as I learned over time, how the habitats or loss thereof impact all of us.
Absolutely, yes. So interdependence is taught in schools. It talks about ecology and habitat, but obviously not enough is done. So once we are adults, I guess we forget all about it and we just look at animals as probably pests in our house. So
Yes.
where did you get the idea of doing something for educating the public?
Well, that took a bit longer. That took quite a bit longer. And it started out with when I was trying to figure out where I could have some impact. I knew I had skills. I knew I had business skills. I knew I had presentation skills. There were certain things that I knew how to do. I knew how to connect with people. But what species was I going to talk about? And I thought, well, we're primates. Let's talk about other primates. And as I started to learn about how critical the issues are for non-human primates, I was devastated. I was just devastated to learn the number of species that are used in research, the number that are being stolen from the wild for research, for the pet trade,
Yeah,
how
sad.
many are losing habitat, as you mentioned in the introduction. The loss of habitat is so hard to wrap your mind around. And again, once again, for those of us, especially who are living in regions of the world that do not have native non-human primates, and there's so little that we know about these species that are essentially our cousins.
True.
So I, again, dove in and learned. And the original goal was to build a primate sanctuary here in New England, hence the name, New England Primate. And that was the original goal because we have a tremendous number of non-human primates in New England because Massachusetts especially has a booming biomedical industry. So we've got about 19,000 monkeys in research facilities here. So my thought was if we could rescue a few, that would be great. So we intended to be regional. I won't bore you with all the politics of why we were never able to build the primate sanctuary. It was all politics. And as time went on, and we really spent many years working on this, and it was exhausting, we were also developing education programs because my thought is, if you want to make an impact, you have to tell people what's going on.
True.
Rescuing a few animals is wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful. But the problems will continue if we don't speak about and raise awareness. What people would say to me, New England Primate Conservancy, isn't that an oxymoron? What primates in New England? And whenever I say, well, around 20,000 in research labs, they go, wow, and they're appalled. They're appalled to know this is happening in our neighborhoods. So we were doing education programs to educate people so we could raise funds for the primate sanctuary. And people were becoming more intrigued by these issues of what's happening worldwide with non-human primates and with other species. Because remember that when you save and protect one species, you protect everyone in their habitats,
True.
right? You're saving hundreds, if not thousands, of other species when you focus on one.
Right.
So we had these education programs. We were going out and doing local education things and, getting small stipends for doing it in some cases. And then in 2008, there was the huge recession. No one could afford to have us do anything for them. So I just took all of our education programs and put them on our website because we had these great education programs. So I put them on the website. And before I knew it, they took off. They just took off. And I wasn't expecting it. We never expected to become a global organization. And we decided at that point, we can have an impact that's not just regional. we can have a global impact. Let's put all of our knowledge and skill into education. And we now have a 600-page website.
Wow, wow, that is a huge one.
It's a huge website.
People
It's a
can go
lot of
and, yeah, they
it's a
can go and
lot of them.
research.
Pardon me?
Yeah. People can go and do their PhD there probably.
That's exactly what it's become. It's become the place that people go to do their research. Magazines, nature magazines, TV quiz shows, students and teachers, of course, come to our
Lovely.
website. And there's no place else that we know of where so much information can be found about non-human primates in one place, in language that is non-scientific, non-academic. We write it so that people for whom English is not their primary language can throw it into a translator if they want, and they'll get a decent translation at least. And that's why
Right.
it's become so popular globally. Young students can understand it, adults can understand it. So we've developed, almost accidentally, we developed this resource that we're incredibly proud of. And as I
You
said, we
should
don't
be.
know we don't know of any other place where something like this is available. You usually have to go to one place to learn about one genus, maybe, or one species. And then if you want to find out more information, you have to go to all of these papers.
True.
Our writers go through those papers and translate the information into language that people can understand.
That is so important. That is the most important thing, I believe, because sometimes scientific language can be a big turnoff for people who want to know more, but they are not able to understand that lingo.
Mhm.
And you able to promote this in layman language. Now, let's take a break to understand what Chezuba is. Everyone at some point ponders on how this beautiful life can be made more meaningful. Maybe you're a leader trying to enhance your employees' experience at your organization. Or you already work for the community and seek volunteers with state of the art skills to strengthen your nonprofit. Whatever your situation, know that you can make a difference. Chezuba began with this very vision, a vision to facilitate every skill and every passion in the world in meeting a social need. Corporate volunteering has several benefits for both businesses and organizations. In parallel, experienced and enthusiastic volunteers join NGO workers, enabling them to serve the community more effectively. Chezuba offers everyone looking to add purpose and meaning to their lives a chance to connect or volunteer virtually with nonprofit organizations from over 100 countries around the world. Visit www.chezuba.net and explore opportunities to find meaning. Chezuba, your platform to do good. And now, back with our guest. Now, that brings me to this question as to who are these writers? Are these volunteers? Or who was the first person who helped you translate the scientific literature into regular common person literature?
I'm not sure who the first person was because they're all volunteers. We have
Okay.
an incredible team of really dedicated volunteers. Some of them have been with us for as long as 7 years. And so we have really good retention with our volunteers. Um, and a lot of that is because for them, this is a labor of love, as this is for me. So our writers are educators, some are professional writers, some are people with an anthropology background or a primatology background. As I said, the people who are writers are really we have some people who are published writers, and they just have an interest in non-human primates or animal rights and or conservation, and they're willing to go in and do the research. And after a while, they become pretty expert in the topic.
Yeah,
So
it sounds like a lot of fun.
it's really wonderful. And as I said, the people who do it love doing it. and we get them for, X period of time. However, we have them do one profile a month, so we don't burn them out. We don't want them to have to do too much. So it's one profile a month, and it goes through, fact checking, and then it goes through editing, so that we make sure that what we're putting up on the website is very palatable for the public. And that's what's so important to us. My marketing background helps with that. My background in
Right.
communications and marketing, because I know the language that people can understand and will respond to. We have no
Yes.
problem making it fun and entertaining and amusing. If something makes people giggle a little bit, they're going to remember it.
Absolutely, yes. That humor
So,
element is important.
so we don't downplay the importance by any means, but we also like to make it uplifting. We want to leave people with hope, because if you
Right.
don't have hope, why bother?
True.
Right?
Very,
So,
very, very true.
yeah.
Now, Deborah, you have all these measures, you have these programs. I'm sure you have some challenges as well. How do you measure the effectiveness of your initiatives? Is it by people feedback, or is there some kind of metric, some sort of metric that helps you?
Metrics. We have our website analytic reports that show us that there are about 1,700 people a day on our website.
Wow. Okay.
So we know that we're reaching millions of people. And it astonishes me, Tej. It astonishes me every day. It astonishes me when I look at real-time reports and I see that 50 people are on right now. And maybe for a
Yeah.
store, that's a small number. But for us, we're a very small organization. And we look like
Yes.
we're a big organization because we've accomplished so much.
Because
We've
you have
profiled
600 pages.
600 pages. About 400 of them are primate species profiles. Then we have about another 150 pages of project-based lessons and activities, so that teachers
Cool.
can use those. Some of we modified many of them, or redeveloped some of them during COVID, so that they could be used in hybrid learning environments, or while classrooms were online. They're set up so that kids can work independently, or they can work in teams. So we really think through. We have a group of educators who does that. So
That's
we have
wonderful.
these are all amazing volunteers who just have such a passion for the subject matter, and develop these incredible programs.
True. That
Again,
sounds
proud.
very interesting. Very, very interesting. Anybody would be happy to learn in a playway method where it is informative as well as fun to do.
Yes, yes, yes. And and our lessons and activities. Some of them are primate specific. So, we've developed a deck of cards that kids can play cards and just look at the lovely photos of primates, and then they can choose to learn about them. And then we have a whole section on what is nature, so that, because if we want kids to understand what they need to protect, they kind of have to know how nature works, so that they know what
True.
they're protecting. So we're up to biodiversity on that one, and that will be ready for the fall school year. And we just have one. We have You're the Scientist programs,
Okay.
where older students can. One of them is older students can create a phylogenetic tree. So it's your evolutionary family tree. So there's a lot of really fun projects in there that might otherwise seem drab, but we've found ways to make them fun and interesting.
Talking about fun and interesting, on a parting note, have you thought about some celebrity trying to promote your cause, or basically celebrities will garner attention, they will get those eyeballs. You already have 1700, but I'm just saying, in case you feel that, do you think something like that would help?
Well, we've thought about that a lot, and it's nice to have celebrities and influencers. And we've also, of course, have Jane Goodall. Everyone knows Jane Goodall and the amazing work that she's done and the attention that she's drawn to primatology. What I would really prefer, though, is that this becomes part of language for, or conversation for, people in general. that people are thinking about their impact on nature, and have some faith in the fact that Mother Nature's formula for success has more wisdom behind it than anything that humans can come up with.
So true, so true, absolutely. It's just some time back I watched this little clip on how the blue butterfly was introduced to the European meadows and how the meadows came back to life. So every species, of course, has its reason to be in that ecosystem, and
Yes,
not
yes.
having
And
that will affect, is like a domino effect.
yes, and they're specifically adapted for their environment, as their environment is specifically adapted for them. It's such a beautiful interdependence that I love to tell people about, because once again, most people don't have cause to think about it. We've got 8 billion people in the world. If everybody did one small thing each day, nothing major, nothing dramatic, and we have a section on the website on what you can do,
Uh-huh.
small things that people can do every day to consider their impact on the environment, even if only millions of people out of the 8 billion did something every day, we can make positive change rather than continuing to destroy the habitat.
Very true. I'm going to go and have a look on that website for that little corner right now after the call. Well, Deborah, it was lovely talking to you. Thank you very much for sharing your story and the work that you do.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about New England Primate Conservancy and the importance of primate conservation. I'm really grateful. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Lovely talking to you. I hope the audience is will support such organizations and the educational endeavors, because we are the people who contribute to the collective efforts. It's not just one organization doing something. We supporting them and talking about this and creating awareness will definitely ensure a brighter future for these remarkable creatures and their habitats. Thank you so much for joining me today.